Go ahead.
Following up on Kylie's question, on what is happening in northern Gaza and the killing and all this stuff, I think over the past 24 hours, something like 56 Palestinians were killed, according to the Ministry of Health in Gaza. I mean, has this become really, an accepted kind of daily occurrence? Or does it warrant, or doesn't warrant some sort of a, an outrage or a whimper saying, you should not.
It's absolutely not acceptable. No civilian dying in this conflict is acceptable, and it is why the United States continues to push and advocate for a ceasefire that would bring an end to this conflict. But as you've heard me say before,
yes,
it takes two parties to agree to a ceasefire, not just one.
All right, but what we see, Israel is in control of the area. I mean, they keep going back and so on. Yes, they have asked hospitals to evacuate or to leave and so on. It just keeps getting repeated and so on. And obviously, going to Ahmed's question on the general's plan and so on, maybe the plan is to make, northern Gaza a buffer zone, maybe not to allow any kind of medical care to force people out. Well, there's 400,000 people trapped in that area.
And that would be absolutely unacceptable.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, okay, let me ask you a couple of other questions. The Secretary General of the United Nations yesterday, in terms of aid, he said that Underwat, and those were his words, is indispensable, that you cannot do it without Underwat. There's absolutely no way to distribute aid without Underwat. And he says that he reached out, sent a letter to the Israeli Prime Minister telling him that whatever law they pass, would be disastrous, would bring about catastrophe. Do you agree with the Secretary General that Underwat is essential for the distribution of aid?
Yes.
Okay, well, that's very good. Thanks. My last question, Matt, is there's talk of that the Arab states reportedly are putting together a region-wide ceasefire or a region-wide solution, that you cannot do it piecemeal, that you have to do it all together, and that they read out to the U.S. Can you share with us if there is such a plan or such a proposal? Can you share with us some information?
So there isn't such a plan or proposal to my awareness. I obviously can't speak to what other countries may or may not be developing on their own, which is not to say that it's happening, but certainly no one has reached out to the United States about such a proposal, and we're not in talks with any countries about such a proposal.
Do you agree with the logic or the principle that you must have a region-wide ceasefire or resolution rather than
So we have always wanted to see a ceasefire in Gaza that would get us to the day after the conflict and allow us to rebuild Gaza and reconstruct Gaza and have a political path forward for the Palestinian people. We want to get to a diplomatic resolution in the north. Now, when you talk about region-wide ceasefires, look, that would require Iran to stop its support for terrorist organizations. Obviously, we would welcome Iran stopping its support for terrorist organizations. So, haven't seen any indication at all that that's a step they're willing to consider. In fact, quite the contrary, given their record of doing it for years and years and years.
All right, but the logic is, you agree with the logic that if you have a region-wide agreement or ceasefire, it would be more enduring?
So I cannot speak to a hypothetical proposal that I'm not even sure actually exists in reality.
Well, I
obviously, we want to see, we would welcome the end of conflict across the region, and we would welcome peace and stability and security across the region. It's a complicated region, it has been for some time. That would require a number of actors in the region to stop the actions that they have been taking, not just in the past year, but for decades.
I think the Arab countries are suggesting that, we should have ceasefire in Gaza and Lebanon together, and then the other becomes like,
I don't know if they are or not. I know there's a news story about it that's different than actual diplomatic conversations.